Picking up where we left off, we have the mil_inch tool library on the left, and we have our Mastercam University tool library on the right. I'm going to create a new assembly in the Mastercam University tool library, but I'm going to use content from the mil_inch library. So for starters, I'm going to go over to the holder section here, and I want to specifically search for a holder that I want to use in my assembly. So with the holder library active, I can click on search. The search field comes up, and as you can see, holders is selected. So I'm going to search for a name, and I want that name to be equal to something. And the search name that I'm looking for is B4Y4-0562. And once you're ready, select the search button. I point this out because I find people hitting enter after they type in the value here, but you actually have to select the search field. What happens is, in this case, two results come up, and if you hover over it, you'll see that you can see a picture of it. So I'm going to move this over to the left, because not only did I search for it using the search parameters, but I can drag and drop from the search results into another library. I'm going to take the holder that I found in my search results and drag it over and drop it into my holder section. And as you can see now, I have one holder here. So just to recap, I have my 3 original tool assemblies, my 1 original cutting tool, and now this one holder. And as you can see, in the preview window down here, we can rotate dynamically any one of these tools, holders, or assemblies. And you can right-click and go to isometric view just like you would inside a Mastercam. You can also see the properties section over here. We'll give ourselves some more space here by closing the search field on the left, by closing the mil_inch library, and by maximizing our Mastercam University library. You can also fully customize the interface inside of the standalone tool manager. As an example, I can drag these tabs and dock them to the left and to the right, very similar to how you would do that for the operations manager or any other manager inside of Mastercam. For now, I'm just going to put it back to where it was up here, and we can continue on with the lesson. So in this case, I want to create a new assembly. So I'm going to start by going up to the new component field and clicking on new assembly. When I do that, there's a blank assembly down here, and as you can tell, down here we have an assembly tree. That assembly tree is empty, so we're going to start building this assembly by dragging components onto it. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the holder section and take this holder which we recently searched for and added into this library, and I'm going to drag it down right onto my assembly. So now as you can see, my assembly tree has a holder. Now I'm going to go to my cutting tools, and on my cutting tools tab, I have this one tool, which is a chatter-free tool. I'm going to grab this and drag it down onto the holder. So now if I click on the assembly, you'll see that I have a holder and a tool. And that's how you create an assembly inside of the standalone tool manager. Now at this point, we could be considered done. However, I want to go and I want to update some of the parameters or the properties of this assembly. For example, the assembly name, let's change, and I'll call it 1/2 inch bullnose ISCAR, since this chatter-free is an ISCAR tool. We could put in a description if we'd like. And we can also edit the tool projection here. We can type in a value, or we could also do it graphically. So the way to do it graphically is to hover over the assembly, hold down the control key, and then click on the holder. And as you can see, by clicking and dragging with the control key down, you can graphically change the projection. So let's change this projection to 2.75. And if you have a precise value, you can also key it in right up here. Now in the standalone tool manager, you'll notice there's really no save option here. Even though there's a button here, it's constantly saving the database. So at this point, Let's close out of the Tool Manager, and I'm back in Mastercam. And if I go into the Integrated Tool Manager, if you remember, we're still pointing to our dataset down here. And as you can see, this assembly right here we just created, 1/2" bullnose ISCAR tool. Now this is in our library, but it's not in our part yet. So if I wanted to, I could simply click the up arrow and now it's in my part. And finally, while we're in Mastercam here, if I wanted to, I could create a toolpath and actually graphically edit the projection of my assembly while in Mastercam. So as an example, if I just create a quick rectangle here, and then let's say I want to contour this. And as I go to my tool selection, you'll see that these 5 tools are here because I added them to the Mastercam file when I was in the Tool Manager. I'm going to grab this assembly, which is one I just created. And if I right click and choose Edit Projection, what I can do here is actually drag my mouse around, snap the tool to my geometry, and using the prompts here, I can take the assembly and change the projection. So for example, if this was a 3D model and I wanted to see if I could avoid clamps or other fixtures, I could graphically change this projection to make sure it would have clearance enough to avoid these parts. So as an example, let's say I snap this down to 1.5 inches. Then press Enter to accept. You'll now notice that under my holder, my tool projection is 1.5 inches. Now we just edited the projection of that assembly in this Mastercam file, but just realize that that only changed the projection for that assembly in this file and not in the actual database. If you wanted to update that projection for all future uses of that tool, you'll have to do it in the database. In the next lesson, we'll explore the steps to create a new tool using the Mastercam Tool Manager.